Coming this evening for the Parks and Recreation Commission meeting, and we are ready to start. And the first item on our agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance, which I'm going to ask. I'm aware of that, but I'm going to ask someone to do it. If that's okay with you.
Okay, I'm already standing, so we can go ahead.
Yeah, would you please lead in the Pledge of Allegiance?
You all
Thank
please
you.
put your hand on your heart and join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sure prerogative. Roll call. We have everyone present except for Francisco Barajas, who has an excused absence today. So let's move on. Do we have any public comments this evening?
I have none.
Okay, very well. We'll move into our presentation portion of the program.
And tonight we have our Senior Advisory Board Chair, Sandy Stang, to give us an update on what our Senior Advisory Board has been doing.
Good evening. So we just had our July 11th Senior Advisory Board meeting, and we discussed vividly the parade and the float, and it was very successful this year. We had a couple people walking with the banner talking about the new center, and a lot of interest. A lot of people came up to me, I was one of the walkers, and asked about the current senior center and then the future senior center. And I think the difference was somebody walking in front of the float rather than riding in the float. So giving the impression we also have active seniors. And one of the things that came up at our meeting we had a little concern about was there's an active food bank that's going to each of the senior centers, and they're providing not only food but fresh fruits. It's a refrigerated truck. And in our current facility, I understand that we don't have the capability for the parking lot to handle that. But I still want to put that out there for everyone to consider, and when we move, that we want to relook at that situation. Almost all the cities in South County were listed except for Lake Forest. Going to our Emeritus classes, we still have yoga, Tai Chi, we have Dynabands, physical fitness, we have the Chinese brush painting, beginning and intermediate Spanish, and then the government issue class, which is really popular. I know we're still looking at, or you're considering names for the new home so that we don't keep calling it the senior center, whatever we decide. So there's still a lot of conversation about that. The taxi vouchers, the taxi situation is still going really well, and we're moving forward. Eventually we're going to get away from the vouchers, which you've probably heard about, but that's a real plus. Then anyone, once they've come to the City Hall, showed the proof of age and location that they live in the city, they'll be able to pay with cash or a credit card. So the city won't have to be involved with any transfer of money or anything like that, which is really progressive, I think, for everybody. And then somehow we missed, and we discussed this, so we'll put it on our calendar for next year. There was a presentation on TV that May was listed as Senior Month, and somehow, I don't know, it came about in 1963, put out by Kennedy, and they talked about, at that time, age 65, there were 17 million seniors, and today there's 40 million seniors. So that's why they're calling it now the Silver Tsunami. And one of the things that was brought up also was that they'd like to have some kind of a time capsule or something like that for the new center as we go into it.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Mm-hmm. And that's all I have. Any questions?
Questions, comments? Thank you so much. Oh, wait, I'm sorry.
Okay.
In regards to the time capsule, I know we did one for the skate park, and we did one was it Heritage Hill when we became a city?
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I would love, yeah.
Yeah, so we thought that was a really good
I think
idea.
that's a great idea.
Yes.
I really do. I know one of the things I always thought about putting in a time capsule is our area codes and how much they've changed over
Oh,
the
that's
years.
a good idea. I love that,
So always
Loretta.
like expand.
Yes, great idea.
Anyway, so,
Okay.
yeah, so I'm all in favor of that.
Okay, great.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Additional comment, though, that you brought up the time capsule at Heritage Hill. That was part of a ceremony when the city was dedicated in 1991, where a time capsule was actually installed, which will be open 50 years hence, which makes it 2041. Thank you. Had to do a quick
Wow.
calculation here.
We know we have a mathematician here.
So, thank you again.
Okay,
for your
thank you.
presentation. Moving forward on the agenda, we want to get into the presentations phase. Well, we had the presentation. Let me pull out the right sheet here. And we want to get into the consent calendar and the minutes of the regular meeting conducted recently, June 21st. Are there any comments or changes?
No, move to approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We got to vote.
Press the appropriate button here. Thank you.
Again? Very good.
Well, I pressed it. Try to get.
Yep, there we are, thank you.
All right, thank
Say
you.
yes.
Very well. Then let's move into discussion action items. The main event for this evening is to hear regarding the turf progress report.
So, Chair and Commissioners, tonight we have our Public Works staff to give us an update on the turf progress. And we have quite a few of our Public Works staff here this evening, so it looks like Mike is going to be our main speaker, and we have other staff here for answers if you have any questions for them as well.
Well, thank you, Commissioners, for allowing me to be here this
Excuse
evening
me,
to talk to
if
you.
I could interject one quick comment to that. In looking at what was presented to us with our
Sorry, that was my fault. Laura just reminded me.
package, no, I'm
Yeah.
not saying whose it is, that's regardless. There were some things in the paper that was handed out, distributed, whatever, that left me kind of scratching my head. And so I did make a phone call to Laura, and about 5 or 10 minutes later, there was a text that came back that said, oops.
Yeah.
Somehow
Yeah.
what we all got was wrong, at which time I had to leave anyway. And whatever the right report is, whatever that is, was just given to me when I walked in. So I haven't even had a chance to look at it. But I would obviously love to hear what you all have to present, because that's a big part of it. But I think then there might be maybe a potential reason for, before making some final decisions on it, we could have a little time to digest and to look and things like that. Because from my background, you don't make decisions on something that you get handed to you literally before the speaker comes up, and you have no inkling as to background, things like that. So, thank you.
Are you asking to take a break?
No?
Okay.
No, because again, I think besides taking a break to read something, there needs to be a little thought process involved as well. So,
Some further direction. I have talked with Scott Westerman the other day about this report, and this is for our information. No decisions or votes would be taken as a result of it, although it was unfortunate that this came out around 6 o'clock this evening, because I happened to catch it just before I left for the meeting. And I think we can certainly glean the important points as part of the presentation to do some digesting and
yeah, I'm willing,
point
to do
taken.
that.
But
not-
in view of the fact that this came out rather late,
Yeah.
I would like to proceed with the
yeah, I wasn't asking to postpone it. I said just, it's kind of hard to suddenly digest everything
understand.
without any background.
Chair acknowledges.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, and I do apologize for you receiving the different report. This evening is just a receive and file. We're just giving you an update, what we've been doing over the last year, where we were, where we're at now, and what we're going to be doing here in the future. So there isn't any necessarily recommended action that we're asking for this evening. It's just to give you a report of where we've been. It's been a while since we've been here, and it does take a long time to analyze the fields. The speech that I'll be giving you this evening pretty much covers a good detail of the report itself. And so I don't think you'll have too many questions afterwards, but certainly if you do, we'll be here to answer those for you. And really, before we get started, I do want to thank you for your participation and everything that you do. You've definitely helped with community services and the Public Works Department to really help us out and make sure our parks are looking great. So I do appreciate your help. And with that, we'll go ahead and get started. And as I mentioned, I think my speech this evening will kind of run over all the different points, and hopefully you'll see where we've been going over the last year or so. So as you recall, we were here last year to discuss the conditions of the sports fields and solicit ideas from staff and yourselves to help alleviate some of the concerns maintenance was having with the condition of the fields. It's really important to remember analyzing sports turf takes years to completely understand. Even though we've had a year now with the current maintenance practices, we're still grasping on the different conditions of the soil out there. Specialized studies are used to determine hours of play, soil composition, drainage, water conditions, and even the weather patterns. This is the reason City hired PRZ to assist with us with those efforts. PRZ was the original developer when they put the fields in. We now have 1 year of increased maintenance activities and can report back to you with how things are going. The last time we were here, staff recommended the Commission support a CIP project to replace existing turf with new sod and to minimally adjust some of the organized group hours. The City Council decided not to change the hours for league play and did not provide the funding for the complete turf replacement. Instead, the Council approved the installation of a fertigation system for injecting nutrients into the existing irrigation at the soccer fields and the common areas at the sports park. As well as a filtration system to help remove the high concentrations of sodium in the reclaimed water. That's one of the big issues we were having with all the landscaping there. City Council also recommended staff specifically follow all the recommendations that were listed in the PRZ report, and you were given that last year when we came to the Commission. One of the areas that concerned staff most in the PRZ report was the use of Kentucky bluegrass seed. That's one of the new controversial things that came up when we were presented the report to the Commission. Staff experimented with it and had little success in spring 2017 in the commons areas. We tried it out, just wasn't working. After routine summer renovations that involves the standard hybrid Bermuda seed, PRZ recommended reseeding with bluegrass in late fall and early winter 2017. The bluegrass did not germinate well, and staff quickly used the industry standard perennial rye. During this time frame, staff increased mowing, irrigation, and all the other PRZ recommendations that were requested. Additionally, we transferred maintenance responsibilities of the sports parks to our landscape inspector, Hugo Andriani, that's here this evening with us. By changing inspectors, we were able to actually provide more attention to overseeing the contractor and actually implementing the PRZ recommendations. Hugo's responsibility was really dedicated to those sports parks, whereas our previous inspector, Oscar, was really separated into going to different areas. Overall, all the sports fields are in much better shape this year than they were last year. Last year, we replaced 100,000 square feet of sod at the sports parks themselves, whereas this year we're actually replacing 60,000. Last year at the sports complex, or the sports park, we replaced 100,000 square feet of sod there as well. This year we're only replacing 20,000 square feet of sod. So we've seen an improvement with the different maintenance practices and the intention that's going on. PRZ was adamant we would not need any sod replacement in the sports park. We are now at the point we must do something in order to have the fields ready in early September. We've seen that some of those areas that were worn out still were worn out. So even though they recommended we won't need it, we definitely need to do some repairs out there. The fertigation system of the sports park has been a significant contribution towards the improvement of the soccer fields. The filtration system that removes the salt content park-wide has helped to green the landscaping and improve the overall conditions. However, we still have concerns regarding the amount of usage at the parks. Until we have some more experience with making sure the nutrient contents are exactly right, we are not currently recommending any changes to the usage hours. Every field is different, so there is no one solution that works best. Our goal over the next year is to analyze each field through soil testing and comprehensive usage studies to determine what is the best course of action. We're still experimenting with different maintenance techniques and nutrient combinations to see how we can reduce the wear on the fields. And really, when you look at the sports fields, it comes down to that soil content. Every park is different, and so normally when you add a fields are all kind of the same, but every one of them, you really have different techniques that take over. And when you have a heavy usage like we have, you really have to be detailed in what types of materials, what type of maintenance practices you have over there. And every year you're refining it. Even today, we're still trying to learn out the right combinations with our fertigation system. The council also asked staff to rebid landscape maintenance services at both the sports park and sports parks. Based on City Council's direction, staff used the PRZ maintenance practices as a basis for scope changes in the new RFP. The bids came in significantly higher than the existing contracts. This was due to a variety of factors, including a higher level of maintenance, updated quantities for plants and materials, as well as high labor costs. The previous contracts were 4 and 5 years old, thus costs for operations have increased significantly over that time. Council approved a 3-year contract with Brightview Landscape at the sports park and a 1-year contract amendment keeping existing pricing at the sports parks. During this year, staff will solicit a new RFP for the sports parks using current and new scopes to evaluate the bid proposals. So they did come in their report, I believe it said about 16% higher at the sports complex and maybe 30% at the sports parks. So with that being the difference, they just wanted us to go back out with an RFP and analyze really what was making that difference. And the contracts are 4 or 5 years old, so things go up during that time significantly. And that's something we need to look at the future, that those costs are going to continue to go up. So we have to anticipate where we're going to put some of those funds to help keep these parks up to the conditions they need to be. So we're currently in our summer renovations, which Hugo will provide you a bit of information about what we're doing. But before I do that, I just wanted to explain why we conduct renovations during the summer and the winter. The main reason is that this is the only time the leagues do not have organized play. We schedule renovations around their seasons, which are similar to other cities. We do not have the luxury to close the field during league play, as they are all being used. All other fields, including the areas surrounding the actual playing field, are open for recreational use. Also, these are the best times for seed germination. The Bermuda grass grows really well during this hot, warm summer weather, while the perennial grasses grow really nice in the cool winter weather. Now, at this time, what I'd like to do is just ask Hugo to come up and tell you a little bit about the different techniques we're doing with our summer renovation process, just so you kind of understand the whole process that goes into it. It's pretty extensive. He's going to keep it really low-key for us, but he'll give you a couple examples.
Excuse me. This is the first time I'm here. I'm, as you mentioned, I'm the sports park landscape inspector, and at this time we're doing renovation at all the parks. We have 4 parks that we've already renovated, and they've taken soil tests. And like Mike was saying, it's very important, the soil testing, because each field is different, like Mike was saying, and when soil tests came back, they showed that they were all different. Okay, but that's chemically, but also physically they're different. And they don't really test physically, they only test chemically. So when you do soil testing, you're looking at the chemical aspects, nutrition, plant nutrition, and all that. But you don't really test for physical, like compaction, is one thing. And then you don't test for how well the water moves through the soil, percolation, water infiltration. And you don't test for the different sizes of granules, and you don't test for how much clay is in the soil versus how much sand. Clay soils will hold more nutrients, hold more water. You don't have to water as often, but you put more water at the times you do water, but you have to put it on cycles so it's time to absorb. And the sand, you have to water more often. So each park has its own individual characteristics, and we're applying processes of how to treat them on that basis. What we're doing right now, just to give you a rundown of what they've been doing during the summer renovation, is they're dethatching. So they go, Bermuda grass you have to dethatch. Okay, so any warm season grass you have to dethatch. And what that does is it creates the soil so that water gets into the soil better. Also, so air gets in the soil better. Also, so certain insects aren't in there, and also it repairs itself better because also it removes the cushionness, so it's not all cushion. I don't know if any of you ever had like one grass that gets a lot of cushion is kikuyu grass. I don't know if anybody has a lawn of kikuyu grass, but you walk over and it feels like a sponge. But we're looking at Bermuda grass for the fields, but that also gets cushion, and you have to dethatch it. So that's what we're doing is dethatching. That's the first process. Then the next process, we remove all the thatch that we pull up, and then we aerate. And then we deeply aerate, so that way we get holes down so the roots could follow those holes, water could get in, and also air could get in. And then we top dress. And then we come in so the whole field, and we put a layer of top dressing, which is sand and organic material. And at the same time we do that, fertilizer based on what the soil test said, and also soil micronutrients, and anything like amendments if they're needed. On some of the parks, we had to put actually some gypsum. Okay, and gypsum helps. And what Mike was saying about sodium, getting rid of sodium. But we're talking about other parks. And then we drag it. And then we just repair the bare spots with new sod, as Mike was saying. So we put new sod in, and then we just water it and take care of it. And then we have to fertilize it shortly after, not right away, but shortly after, because we have new sod in there, and it doesn't have enough roots yet, so we have to do a little more fertilizing. And more or less that covers it. Then we just have to let it grow in, and then once it grows in, and then the fields will open, and everybody will be able to play again. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So there's quite a technology and science that goes into just maintaining fields and things like that. It's pretty amazing. Prior to Brightview, you might remember our contractor was Marina. Marina was overtaking Brightview, a much larger contract company. And in fact, they have a lot of professionals on their side. They have a lot of people that tour the world. And we had a gentleman at the sports park yesterday that has put in sod for the Olympics that were in Beijing. He actually flew up from Mexico. He was doing soccer fields down there. He came to look at our sports park complex, and it was really amazing to see how much usage we have over there. He's like, have you compared all the usage? You have everything? Oh, yeah, we've done all that. We've looked at all that already. But he gave us some more recommendations besides just what PRZ was doing. In fact, Hugo's been really good about working with PRZ. If he sees something that's not working at the sports complex, he's bringing that to PRZ's attention, and then we modify some of the things that's being recommended to us. The example was the bluegrass. We noticed that wasn't hitting at the time it was supposed to. So during those winter renovations, we had to do something to change it quickly, or we would not have had a field for people to use. It would have had lots of gaps of dirt areas, and that's something we're trying to avoid, is any of those dirt gaps. We want those to be regular, really nice playing fields. Now, by the end of the season, there's dirt patches that are left, and that's one of the things we're trying to strive to prevent. We really want the grass there the whole entire season. So we're not ready right now to provide a recommendation for any reduction in hours. We really want to analyze what's going on with the soil composition. We really want to take a look at all the parks, get our facts in a row, figure out all those usages, and make sure we understand there's no more maintenance that we could do. And we're not quite there yet. We want to make sure we have the right combinations. And if we figure out that maintenance level that we're providing can't keep up with the usage, which is where we were last year, but we've increased some of the different practices that we've done. So we want to make sure that we can't do anything else, and that we might come back to you and say, hey, here's some suggestions that we might have for you. But right now, everything is looking a lot better than it did last year, so that's really good news. We still have some concerns out there, and we're still working on those. But we're happy where we're at, and there's always some improvement. And we're going to continue working on each year and how we do it. And hopefully the reduction in the amount we have to spend on sod replacement keeps getting less and less. And that's really how we determine the effectiveness of what's going on. It's really determined by how much we have to put back into that field. So during the winter time, we might have to do some more sod replacement. Well, we'll do that, and we'll take a look at what can be best. So with that, hopefully I've given you kind of where we've been for this year, where we want to go. We really want to analyze where we're at with these fields, and I'd be more than welcome to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. We'll open it up for comments and questions, starting to my right. Jim?
Okay, this is definitely different than what I walked away.
Yeah, you had the one from last year.
After reading,
definitely not that.
Reading number one and saying, this is like deja vu. Did I see this same 2 pieces of paper, 3 pieces before? But still, a number of questions, maybe ideas, suggestions, and things like that. One, going back to some of your opening comments, Mike, about the, if I recall correctly, the CIP number for last year was $500,000, $500,000. And having been at the council meetings and budget meetings that are all related to it, that number seemed to carry forth. Your comment made today that they did not, or what was finally spent was less than that?
What's happening right now is there was less spent because some of those funds were towards the fertigation system.
Okay.
They also went towards the PRZ recommendation. So as part of PRZ recommended different actions, we wound up using some of the capital improvement funds for that. Coming in the mid-year CIP, we're requesting that the council reallocate those funds to other improvements at the sports park. So such as, if you've noticed, we have some orange fencing around some of the landscape areas, and that's because people were walking and trampling on all the vegetation. So the intent over there is to do some fencing like Disneyland has, maybe waist high, just to keep people out of those areas so we can keep that landscaping up. So part of those funds, CIP funds, are being requested to take care of those type of items. Also, the netting behind of the synthetic soccer fields, literally tall netting that keeps the ball in, that needs to be replaced. So we're asking for some of the funding to be reattributed to the projects for the sports park.
Okay. Another way could we put it maybe that we can use some of that money that originally was intended to fix the grass, if I can call it that, to other needed maintenance functions. And we really did not need the initial $500,000 just to put the grass back into, quote, playable shape.
That's true. The $500,000 was intent to replace the entire playing field itself. Right. So if you go to Irvine and the Great Park, they usually will change that whole field about every 2 years. So that's kind of to get you back to that square. So yes, those funds could be turned into some other maintenance item for sure.
Okay, so we didn't really need them, and by what you kind of cited over the previous years here, over the previous year, from what I think the number was 100,000 square feet down to 60,000, and so there was a positive effect.
Absolutely, the fertigation system is a definite improvement. It's not a one-all win for anyone. There's still materials that have to be pressed out and things like that. But yes, it was definitely a huge improvement, and that it was a very good item to be put into the park itself.
Okay. Just again, another thing mentioned, which I think is also new, is, I'm trying to find the right word, I'll say the realization that sports fields are like people.
That's actually a really good example. Someone described it as if you go to the doctors and you go to the hospital and you're sick, and so you go there and you get that initial diagnosis, and then you get a different prescription every time, and that's kind of what we're in right now. We're getting different prescriptions, and we're seeing what works, and hopefully we'll be all better. But yeah, you're right. The fields are healing right now, and we're trying to figure out the best solution.
And they're like different DNA that, it's still the same. And it sounds like, at least, you're making a initial attempt to look at each field individually and to excuse me, and to heal them in the sense that what you might do at Borrego Park would be different than Regency and different than the grass at the sports park, and on and on and on. Is PRZ on board with that, or are they looking more? And I kind of wish they would have been here, because then you can kind of, ask the horse, so to speak. Or because the original report that we got last year kind of seemed that there was a master cure that had been discovered. If you do this, and I kind of appreciate your comment, like you put in bluegrass, it'll heal everything, make everything better, and you're finding that in reality, what you plant has a direct relationship to what it's planted in, as far as sustainability, growth, lower maintenance, etc. So I'm just kind of wondering, are they on board with this, or are they still going in the one direction that says, if
No.
you do this, this will...
I think PRZ has been definitely a little more flexible now. They have a good grasp of what's happening at the sports park, the conditions there, the soil conditions especially, because it takes time to kind of, like you say, re-heal everything that's gone on. It was very compacted, as Hugo had just mentioned, and when it's compacted, it's hard to get those roots really far in there.
Right.
So some of the techniques that PRZ had recommended gets you in really deep into that dirt area to help those roots really grow. So they are definitely on board on working with us now. I do want to make clear, though, that the PRZ recommendations are being done at the sports complex, the sports park. They're not being necessarily done at the sports parks yet. We did recommend that in the RFP, however, because costs were high, based on a number of factors, the council said, let's stay to where we're at right now and see where we go. So the PRZ recommendations are not all being utilized at the sports parks, just because there's additional costs for the contractor to do that.
Which would make sense. But is there something we can do ourselves with the knowledge that exists on, let's say, staff and people like you who are out there literally every day, seeing what's going on? Because there are still, I guess, always have to listen to that plural on the parks as opposed to sports park. Right? So you look at some of the different facilities that are being used, and you see a whole, almost an A to Z gamut of what they look like before they go into rehab, when they come out of rehab, and then when they get played on for the spring or fall seasons, and they don't all look alike at each stage. So again, I think that would be an encouraging aspect if we could find the way to at least dig into what is the content of what's underneath that grass.
Absolutely.
And use that as kind of the means behind writing the prescription for each field. I'll give you an example. Where I live, I pass by Regency Park 2 to 3 times a day, out and in. And thinking now that we're at June 19th, we're within 30 days of those fields being released again. There's still huge brown areas out there. So obviously there's something a little different than, let's say, one of the other parks. And then you have Foothill Ranch, which itself I think is the Gobi Desert before you even put anything in there. And it just requires one heck of a lot more irrigation than typically when you see the roots of trees coming out of the ground, and on and the field being very similar. So I personally applaud those efforts.
One of the interesting things this year, actually, is if you look during the spring and early summer, we had fairly moderate weather, and then all of a sudden in July we hit 122 degrees.
Yeah.
So a lot of that impacted a lot of our landscaping and our medians, as well as the turf that was being installed. Some of the turf got installed on a Friday and didn't get watered until a Monday, and during that heat, it died. Some of that died.
Literally died. And
So they know they need to replace those areas.
Yeah, that's the thing. A thought, a suggestion, I know we talked about it one time previously, but from a standpoint of other sites in the city, to take a little bit of the load off of the premier game fields, let's call it that. And there are several facilities that are really not even used at all for anything. And being fairly knowledgeable about the sport that does compact the turf most of the time, no matter what anybody will tell you, for a practice facility, a team needs no more than a 40 by 40 yard footprint. They don't need 110 by 78 like those people who never took any training or whatever in the sport and how to do things well, and that seem to advocate. And we have some smaller facilities within the city that might be worth considering for practice sites, as opposed to the sports park and some of the parks, like the Borregos, the Regencies, and that, during the season being inundated literally 7 days a week. And that is something that there are resources out there that could very easily help with taking a look at the size of the league, the age levels, and the number of teams. That's all they would. It's very simple. And put together a matrix of what type of field space is really required, knowing that they practice twice a week, which if you go to the international soccer body at the age that these kids are, most of them, that's already considered way too much for what they do. But that would be something maybe worth considering. Another thing to consider, because people are pretty creative, and I see it, like I said, coming by Regency in and out there multiple times a week, they find ways, even the field, the playing area is fenced off, to still do organized activities there. And what a number of cities do, and I would suggest we consider doing it too, is when the fields are closed for renovation, the goals are taken and chained together, like mouth to mouth on the sides, at which point the goals become unusable. And that takes the thrill out of most of the organized practice type sessions. And the other thing then is maybe even stake them to, or chain them to, let's say, a tree or something, that, because left the way they are loose, they do get moved around and people find things. And the other thing, which I think we could do jointly when the seasons are on, is to, as a procedure, I don't think it's an ordinance or a policy, but I know other cities do that too, is to advise the leagues to, if they're going to use the goals, to put them not in the usual places. And it took Irvine, I don't know how long it took them, but having been up there in a couple things, it was like suddenly this light bulb, they said, went off, where we realized we could put the goals across the field instead of at the top and bottom. And then typically the goal area in front of the goal gets trashed, and it's much harder to retain. So you kind of spread the field usage to different parts of the field.
That's actually a very good point, and we have been, as of last year, asking the different clubs to move those goals around. The reason we didn't do it in the past was because we tried to isolate the areas that we had to repair, so that way if we knew that that one area in those goals is always going to be bad, we'd have less that we would need to repair. So we've changed the mindset a little bit. In fact, Hugo's mentioned he's going to make the teams move the goals even more next year.
Yeah, which I think would be great. I think we can, through staff, reinforce that at like allocation meetings or possibly. Mm-hmm. This is, kind of, not to sound like a cop, but this is the way it is. And if not, this is like warning number one. And number two, you get a ticket, and number three, you go see the judge, and to see if you're kind of worthy of using the fields, because they are an asset, they are a resource. And as a totally separate discussion, which I think we do need to have, and I know it's chronicled in some of the data, is we will be looking at fee schedules and things related to it, that for here's field A, here's B, here's the premier field. And other places do it, Irvine does it as well, that they have a tiered fee structure. If you want to play at the, quote, great park, which is not as great as it originally was supposed to be size-wise, but your fee schedule is totally different than if you play at one of the city parks, even those that are designated as active fields and used year-round for sports. So, I think, it requires a little bit of change in maybe philosophy and whatever, but I would hope that Public Works would be amenable to including some other fields. It'll present some different maintenance issues. If you take someone like a Kavanaugh as an example, that could sustain a number of teams. Now, you've got residents in the area that have gone 20 years without considering having somebody in their backyard, whatever. But again, if you could house 20 teams there to practice, you could take that load off of the fields that are really costing us a lot of money to do. And there's a couple of other, like Darren Park and other fields at Cherry Park. There's some flat space, and again, it doesn't take all that much. And then back to something that I have espoused in the past, and I know it's a number exercise, but when we talk about what we're doing, we don't talk about two specific fields at the sports park because they are artificial. And it's a whole different way you can manipulate numbers. You may have a bigger upfront cost. You will have a maintenance cost, but it won't be staggering numbers like you all came to us last year and saying, gee, $500,000, and we could use that for a lot of other things if we could save someone. But and the other approach to doing it is you all have, and you presented tonight, a pretty good understanding, and you mentioned specifically the commons area, that between the free play that is on it, tournament play that is allowed to go on there, which in a way explains how, I'm going to use the word hard up, teams are for spaces to hold tournaments, because that's not a level field and the ball does not roll through there in any way, especially not when it's grass. But maybe to look at that, and then maybe a year or two after to convert, another facility. And I think the average from what I have read, seen, and talked to people, you've got a good 10-year life to a field like that. That's true. With, I'm not going to say minimal, but compared to the number that was floated in the original one, that's kind of what gave me a little bit of palpitations, seeing they're looking to get this again. This does not make sense. Then nothing worked. But again, to work it into a capital improvement program with proper reasoning behind it, that you won't be asking or needing those large sums up front every year. And that way you also don't have to kind of come to us, the council, whomever, anybody would listen, and say, well, the only way we can present something usable and nice is if, again, you cut the use and cut the use. Because the ultimate way to have the nicest fields in the world is to schedule no usage on them. And I don't think that's... What? That's right, yeah. We have these wonderful fields, and they're never used, So, kind of related, on the baseball side of the sports park, is the damage level as high?
Over the baseball fields, actually the amount of hours that are allocated over there at the baseball fields are definitely manageable. They're in accordance with your standard practices and what you would normally do. So those fields always look very nice because we're able to, the hours aren't as so much as they are on the soccer fields, and that's really what was making us get so far behind, because those weren't normal hours that are going on in those fields. So there weren't normal conditions that you would typically do your maintenance, which was scaring us, with saying, oh my gosh, if we're going to continue doing this, we've got to think of something else.
Well, the other thing too, baseball, especially compared to soccer or the American version of football, the compacting issue is ultimately quite a bit more, and the older the player is who is on that field, a 7-year-old versus an 18-year-old, which is an adult basically, the compacting is far more severe.
There were some discussions actually include some soccer practice on the baseball fields, and we're like, no,
you don't.
Baseball fields look just nice. Let's not tear them up.
What you're going to do in the end result with that is you're going to save some money on the repair of the soccer fields, and you will spend money that you're not spending right now on the repair of the baseball fields because of the compacting that will occur. And in the end, you've just widened the problem and spent the same amount of money. Okay. So, one last, and I appreciate and thank you for what you presented today, because it, like I say, that's why I call Laura, because when I read that first thing, it was like, and then I didn't get back to it till today. I just looked at it the first time on Tuesday, and it was like it scared me, and I call it. In relation to the, I never can get the name right, the beetle, the bark borer.
The borer beetle?
Borer beetle, thank you. I personally live in the Montberry development in Lake Forest, and have noticed that not only in our development, but especially an area, if you come down El Toro from Santa Margarita / Portola Parkway to Normandale, everything, let's say, especially on that right side, looks like it has been really attacked. And I know we had that seminar, it's probably almost 2 years ago now, or a year and a half, or...
A little bit over a year.
Okay, yeah, it is over a year. The gentleman from, was it UCI or UCR, who came out. Do we have anything in the general, well, not the general plan, but the Public Works plan to either mitigate that or to chop down all the trees, or so they don't have a home?
Well, I wish I could tell you we had a direct answer for that. The nice thing is Hugo is very knowledgeable about the beetle, so is Oscar, which are two landscapers. And then we just hired our facility manager, and our facility manager, his uncle is actually Mr. Kabashima, which is running the whole organization to handle the borer beetle.
Okay.
So we have a direct contact to finding out what's going on.
Yeah.
But right now, unfortunately, they don't have an answer for the, they're still monitoring it. They've actually gone to Southeast Asia to try to find something that takes care of this beetle that they could bring
Eradicate
it
it
back.
before it comes over? Yeah.
Correct. So they're trying to figure out a predator that'll take care of that beetle out there. So right now there is not an answer. They are trying to keep track of where it is spreading, and we've met with the county, we've met with Mr. Kabashima, we've met with other agencies whenever they hold a seminar to discuss what's happening and what's occurring. What we are doing, we are definitely inspecting all of the trees. We did apply for an urban forestry grant. We were hoping to get awarded that grant funding that will allow us to inspect all the trees and then to start some sort of rehabilitation effort. Unfortunately, based on our economic demographics, we were not awarded that funding, so we did not get it. So we were still hitting different spots of the city that we know of that has this beetle. We're monitoring it. The area that you described, Montberry, and the opposite side of the street on El Toro, where the county owns, the county definitely has a serious issue, and they are removing those trees. We do have it in Montberry, and I think your HOA does as well. So we are monitoring those areas. So right now, there is not an answer to that. All they're doing is monitoring it, and as soon as they have some way to keep it in its area or to have something to take it away, we will definitely go with that answer. There is some recommendations to put injections in trees and things like that, and that's not successful necessarily at this time. There's a lot of HOAs that are spending $30,000, $40,000 to inject their trees. It's not necessarily working. The best option is when the trees are new, like when we have our new Civic Center. You inject them at that time when they're growing, so that way they can go ahead and hold that bark beetle off. But when they're a little older, they're not able to fend off that predator.
Is that something that the HOAs are willingly participating in, or are they just kind of putting their arms up and saying, "Wow, we wouldn't even know where to begin," or are they actively like involved from a standpoint of having discussions, let's say, with the city to work together jointly? Because I know Lake Forest 1, I have some property there too, and I mean they're like the IRS guy coming after you if there's a tree that doesn't look wonderful, to get rid of it, cut it down, do whatever, which the homeowner has to bear the cost of. And I'm just wondering if it spreads. It doesn't seem as prevalent down there from what is visible as compared to other parts of the city, because that could eventually even do some destructive action to the common areas that are owned really by the HOA when it comes down to it. At which point their typical venue is, okay, let's assess the homeowners to take care of a problem we did not take care of or get into for too many years.
We've actually had a very good relationship with the HOAs. I
Good.
think he keeps building
Okay.
all the time, especially after we had that first meeting.
Yeah.
We've followed up with all the HOAs that have had questions. In fact, we're going to be getting kind of a quarterly newsletter that goes out to all of the HOAs that they could pass along to their residents. So any updates that we get, we're going to pass those along, as well as if there's code enforcement issues, if there's stormwater issues. It'll be like a little flyer that they'll get
Good.
that they can
Good.
pass along to their residents with important numbers and things like that. So that's something we haven't done in the past, but we're going to try to do. And I know our multimedia efforts here in Lake Forest have increased significantly, so they're going to be supporting us for those efforts to try to let people know their options. And hey, as soon as we find something out, we'll let you know how we can help you out.
Okay, thank you.
So if there's no further comments from Jim, can we move over to the next? Thank you.
Thank you. All righty. First of all, Hugo, thank you for coming. It's so nice to meet you. Yeah, and also I've heard wonderful things about you, so I just want to pass that along. Anyway, so I'm so glad that our fertigation is working, because I know that was a biggie. And, of course, I think Jim has covered everything on the turf part. Thank you, Jim, for going first, so I don't have to
Okay, you're welcome.
repeat. Okay, but thank you. No, I'm just happy that we've made such great progress.
Making
on
progress, but it's not over. It's,
Oh, I
there's
know
still
it's
a
not
lot of-
over, but look how far you've come.
Yes.
Give yourself a big pat on the back. Woohoo! All right? So, no, I'm just very happy about this. So, thank you guys. I know it's like, it wasn't easy, but you did it. And it's still ongoing. So now I have to go to my negative part. I'm still not happy with those plastic plants on Lake Forest by Pittsford.
The what?
Those plastic plants in the median.
Oh, okay. I think they cans.
Wanted-
I'm sorry.
No, the Lake Forest. They're on Lake Forest. They're plastic plants. I swear my blood pressure goes up and down every time I drive by there because I think it looks so bad. Just want to let you all know.
I think we want to limit our comments to turf.
I understand.
So thank you for injecting
yes.
that.
That would be a
Perhaps-
good idea to install turf where the plastic.
I think
plants are.
perhaps at another time.
God. Okay. Anyway, thank you all.
All right.
Go.
Jim, I think, covered a lot of it. One quick question I had was, have we looked into, and I think I probably know the answer, the cost or feasibility of putting turf in versus all this effort that we're doing with the grass? I mean, is there...
We have looked at synthetic turf installation, and we presented some of those options to the City Council. When you look at the difference between synthetic turf and normal turf, it's about 10-year life cycle for synthetic turf. And when you add up all the costs for maintenance that goes into it after about 10 years, they're almost even. So initially for synthetic turf, you throw out a lot of money. The difference between synthetic turf and regular turf is that you can play on synthetic turf a little bit more often than you can. So if it's raining or it's damp, synthetic turf allows you to play more often, whereas if it's raining or damp on a turf field, you don't want people on that because they'll tear it up. So there's give and takes. People like playing on the regular turf because it just feels different from a synthetic turf. So there's pluses and minuses.
Because I know if it's a cost thing, too, having just gone to, with my daughter, to national playoffs and then to finals, national finals, and seeing the pool of talent, there is a ton. And I can tell you this because, like I said, I just lived it. The talent pool for soccer players in Southern California, in our area, is so much bigger than any other part of the country. We were playing a team from New York that was having to pull players down from Canada. So the usage, I can understand why you had two Southern California teams in the national finals from here, which was kind of pretty amazing. But so I think that in terms of usage and fees, I mean, I think that if it is a little bit more, I think you're going to eventually recoup a lot of that money just from...
It takes about the 10-year lifespan. So you'll definitely throw a lot of money up front to get it all installed, and not so much during every month to maintain it. And then that's a large sum for some agencies to put out, for that much money to put in synthetic fields.
That's why my suggestion, maybe try to do it on a staggered basis, as opposed to saying, okay, we've got, let's say, the Commons, we've got Borrego, we've got, just to name three of them, Regency, that are heavily used game fields. Do that all at once. I would say stagger it. With a sports park, with the Commons, you not only have play on there, but you have the foot traffic from events, special events that the city has.
Well, and a lot of the clubs, too, it's not just 2 nights a week. The academy teams are 4 nights.
Yeah, no, I understand,
So
yeah.
the usage is definitely going up. That's why I'm wondering if it might be worth looking into a feasibility of turf, and then you just, hopefully recoup some of that income on the fee structure later on. So just the thought.
Mm-hmm. It's definitely something to consider.
And maybe we'll have a men's team qualify for the World Cup.
Oh, thank you.
That's it.
A couple quick comments. I was frustrated several years ago as to why Kentucky Bluegrass was selected in the first place, because my knowledge is because of the fluctuation of temperature in Southern California, because that's really not a native grass to be planted in the first place in Southern California. It really is more Midwest. Our weather conditions and climatic changes are so different than compared to the rest of the country in Southern California. And in my view, to begin with, that decision was a faulty one based on improper factual support, because it's not a sturdy grass, for one thing. It doesn't really hold up, because in the Commons, where I believe it was installed initially,
Unfortunately, it was installed not at the most prime time. That was the only time we had to try it out. Mm-hmm. So unfortunately, we didn't get a chance to install it exactly when it should have. But it did not take, well, no.
You see, the soil and the rooting, and I'm not an expert, but I have enough knowledge to be dangerous, is that it never rooted in the first place.
It did not.
And I thought that would be the case, given my previous comments, because the sturdy grass makes sense on a hybrid Bermuda. Given the fact that was mentioned that the Commons is used pretty commonly for foot traffic because of various trade shows and exhibits, which I don't agree with. From my knowledge and my background, having a degree in Parks and Recreation and being very familiar with surfaces, one of the reasons I wanted to come on the commission, is those activities where there's heavy foot traffic is not done on grass surfaces. They're done on cement. And it's something that we as a city need to really take a look at, because there's no grass surface ever is going to take the punishment of foot traffic, heavy foot traffic, and setups and trade shows. It's devastating. And by the time that particular event is completed, you have a muddy field. And the damage is huge. So I think the city is throwing bad money after good money, quite frankly, and trying to use maintenance to keep ahead of the problem that those events create, particularly on the Commons. It's my view that the city needs to change their philosophy quite a bit to take a hard look at putting those events on cement surfaces, which means that you don't put them at the sports park. You have a different venue, whether it be converting a parking lot or some other surface for that purpose, because the damage that is done is irreversible. The root structure, the soil structure is completely altered, which requires frequent turf repair and installing new turf. And I think if you look at the records in Public Works, I bet you that would bear out. Because once you have those foot traffic events, it's quite different than having an athletic event. And because of all the constant pounding and the constant foot traffic, there's no way that you could throw money at something like that to keep up. Now, I'd like to challenge you, to challenge me, based on your knowledge of what I just said.
No, I agree with all your points. I know we work very closely with community services to try to do our best to accommodate all the events, and we work really hard together as when the events are going to close. So we make sure, really, the whole point is that irrigation is really important. And a lot of times we have concerts and things, we work very closely to be able to get that irrigation back on there as soon as the concerts are over, because if it goes a day, things start drying out really fast. So we try our best with
All right.
this.
Well, as an advisory body here at the commission, we don't have any authority. We advise the city council and the city staff. It's my strong conviction that Public Works needs to take a hard look at that to make appropriate recommendations, because again, in my view, it may not make sense to approve those type of activities because the Commons was never designed for that in the first place. As a matter of fact, the initial philosophy was more for passive activities, whether it be a concert or something that has minimal foot traffic. It never was intended for what it's being used for from time to time on these heavy traffic events. So I would caution city and city staff to really rethink that in the future for approving those type of events.
And we'll talk to community services about that, and then Hugo, we can make sure after some of these events we can take pictures and we can monitor those areas a little closer.
I think if you did a cost-benefit analysis and you have carefully looked at past history, I think it would bear out to support my argument that in the future we need to have those preserved for other types of events that do not punish the fields, such as the type of events that I have experienced. Would you not agree?
I agree. Any kind of wear on the fields is going to have an impact, that's for sure. So if we could keep, as was suggested earlier, everybody off the fields, I would be happy.
I'm not putting you on trial here, but I am making a point for the record.
And we'll definitely monitor it, and we'll talk to community services. And we, like I say, we work real close together. And if there's damage out there, we always they'll assess it to the contractor or the facility that was out there. If they break heads or they do damage to it, we ask for compensation for those activities and stuff.
Right. The second data point has been mentioned as far as artificial grass versus turf. Clearly, yes, there are maintenance costs involved. I'd like to see us do a hybrid philosophy where we would use artificial turf in certain situations where, as an alternative to natural turf, and this makes sense based on the types of activities that are going to be conducted there. So I think the nature of the activities will drive or influence the type of surfaces selected. So I think we shouldn't just discard artificial turf just by the fact that really long-term it's expensive, and I don't think that's a legitimate justification. I think the justification should be to match the surface to the types of events that might be more cost-efficient and more economical than a natural turf. So I think in evaluating whether it be the sports park, we do already have artificial fields out there, and I think we actually have the natural turf fields. But I'd like to have serious consideration given to some of the things that I've mentioned, that it can be brought back to the commission based on recommendations after the city staff has had a chance to evaluate alternatives, because we're never going to solve the problem here. The demand for these fields will continue to grow. The demand for usage hours will continue to grow. You cannot stop that. Yes, you can look at alternative fields. Yes, you can come up with some creative alternatives, but we're still going to be faced with the same problem. And we're going to have this discussion probably next year and the year after and the year after, because the growth of the city and the appetite that our residents have for athletic sports drove the creation of the sports park. Yeah, maybe we need a second sports park. Who knows? But the fact remains is that we need to become out-of-the-box thinkers about how we're going to balance the needs of the community based on the number of demanding hours and the cost. Because as I look at the public works costs on maintenance of fields, if you go back 5 years, I think you have those numbers somewhere. It's phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. When you place sod, the cost is huge. I don't have to make a comment. And the maintenance in itself and hiring people to monitor this thing, it becomes a life of its own. It gets way out of control, and we've got to keep going back to the city council and asking for more money. We cannot continue to do that. I mean, we went to the city council just recently for quite a bit of money, did we not? I'm venture to say if we don't sit back and take a look at alternatives, we're going to do the same thing again and again and again. And because we're trying to satisfy our customer appetite, our resident appetite for these facilities, and we just can't do it and be sustainable as a city from an affordability perspective. Comment?
I agree with you completely. It's quite the challenge. I know Hugo tries everything he can to monitor with the contractors and making sure we have everything out there, but it's a challenge every year.
So again, I challenge the city staff to come to us and with some creativity as to, okay, well, we don't have a total solution, but here's what we can do, and start thinking about some alternatives outside the box.
And I think that's part of what, looking at the different fields, analyzing each one, usage, soil composition, all of that, it'd probably be part of that discussion. But that takes a little bit of time to do. We have to hire someone and things like that, so it'll take a little bit of time.
I understand that. That's why I'm challenging you. I mean, if we don't have the expertise in the city, we'll have to contract out whatever you do to help us better understand for the next 5-year business plan for the city. We need to take a hard look at that, because the city council and the residents of the city are not going to put up with that. Constant allocations of costs like that.
And we have very high expectations, and we attempt to meet those.
And there's high demands on the city staff to come across with creative solutions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Public Works, thanks for coming here this evening. We appreciate it.
All right.
Always love it when
Thank
you
you,
guys
and compliments to you for your responses. Thank you. June 2018 recreational report.
Good evening, Chair and fellow commissioners. We are here for the month of June's activities. To start with, we had Dino Days at the Nature Park on June 2nd and 3rd. We had over 2,500 participants for both days, and as you know, some of you who were there got to see some new exhibits and some new educational entertainment that was there. That was nice. We also had Chick-fil-A, TK Burgers, and Cone Ice, as always, to provide goodies for our community, so that was nice. We had, let's see, moving on, we had our first movie in the park on June 15th. That was The Lorax. We had over 400 people in attendance, so another great turnout. The first concert, which was an amazing 80s concert, we had over 2,500 people in attendance. That was probably one of the biggest turnouts I had seen. We had 80s tributes band Crowd Theory, The Reflex, and Aeromyth. All three groups were really amazing. We had Cone Ice there as well, the Hot Dog Company, and Kettle Corn. We have a concert that's coming up in Pittsford Park it's next Sunday, July 29th. That will be our 90s concert. And just to review from our last meeting, I know, Lisa, I don't think you were here, on June 21st, the Parks and Recreation Commission received a presentation from Mr. Ong, who requested a badminton program at the sports park. So we had him do a presentation as to his request, and then staff, actually myself, did a presentation as to the time allotment and the schedule that we have for the gymnasium. Unfortunately, at this time, we have decided not to continue to proceed with badminton in the gym, as we don't have time that they are looking for. They're looking for some evenings, and at this time, that gym time is full. But we'll continue to explore opportunities and see if there's anything that we can do possibly in the future as our attendance in open gym maybe decreases. But our numbers right now are just too popular for basketball, volleyball, futsal. So we've actually put that on the back burner, but not completely opposed of the idea. We're always welcome to new ideas. And as I said, we have some upcoming activities. One of them will be tomorrow. We have our second movie in the park, which is Cars 3. So that will be held at the sports park. We have our next concert, like I said, it'll be at Pittsford Park, so hopefully I'll see you guys there. It's a 90s concert. And then again, the next movie in the park is Despicable Me 3, and that's in August. And if you guys haven't been able to get out to, I just wanted to highlight the Farmers Market. The Farmers Market is a new improved Farmers Market. It's at the sports park every Wednesday from 4 to 8 p.m. It's actually it's in the turnabout of the parking lot, so it's right in front of the entrance of the recreation center. Come by. We have all kinds of, we have farmers that are representing we have fruits and vegetables. We have a gentleman that actually sells grass-fed beef. We have kettle corn always. We have a jeweler. We have all different types of vendors, not just food, but actually little crafts and things like that as well. So it's a great experience, and that's a new program that Nick has started. So come by and check it out.
What are the hours again, please?
4 to 8 every Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Every Wednesday, yeah. And that's all I have, and Vicki can take over.
Thank you very much. Director's report, of any?
Oh, no, we still have more.
But we'll have a few
More
items
programs,
for,
more programs.
for the rec report. So I was going to discuss...
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I was going to discuss some of the activities in this program areas that I oversee. At the skate park, the staff did a great job of revamping the preschool skate school, and it's now skate school is Nectar's preschool skate school. The artwork you see in the report is all hand done by one of our staff. Basically, the front of it is Nectar, and he's revamped to be a skater. And then each of the kids, when they come to the program, they earn a sticker that for each of the new types of tricks that they have learned at the skate park. So it's very interactive, and it's very popular. It's sold out for our little preschoolers. It's a great program if you ever get a chance to go by the skate park on Tuesday or Thursday mornings. That's when this program takes place. But Corey, who is our recreation supervisor, did all the hand drawings for this particular map, which is very, very cool. This would be one of the programs that I have definitively told them that I will be looking at CPRS for an award. This is something that would be definitely an award-winning program. Number one, using the skate park. Number two, working with preschoolers and these amazing hand-drawn maps that he's using, and taking our mascot and making our mascot be a skater. It's a very cool idea. The other programs I wanted to highlight was some of our seniors programs. On June 12th, we took a group of seniors to the sports park for a picnic, a barbecue picnic to welcome summer, and 24 Lake Forest residents went to the sports park, and they had games and they barbecued, and it was a great time for all that attended. The winner for the balloon toss won a $10 gift card to Target. The last time up for the seniors was they did a Silverado Canyon tour and lunch at Silverado Canyon, and that was one of our mini excursions. They had a naturalist who worked with them that day to point out some of the different birds and some of the different types of trees and flora that is in Silverado Canyon, and then they had a lunch at the cafe. Upcoming events for you to be looking forward to is we have our special needs summer dance here at City Hall at 6 p.m. on Saturday the 28th. And we always have a great turnout for that. This one is a Western theme. We'll be having square dancers from the same group that was here for the resource fair. Will be here to square dance and teach some square dancing. And then we are having a visit from our mini therapy horses that night as well. So that should be super fun to come to. And that is my report for this evening, and Laura and I would be very happy to answer any questions for you in regards to that. Scott did not leave us a director's report, but we can try and answer some questions for you.
All right. Questions,
Yes.
comments from anybody? All right.
Thank you. A question, and maybe this is more for Scott, but on the notation on the Boys and Girls Club and the process that is going through, from what is capsulized here, they were originally supposed to submit something on a certain date. They did not. Extension to another 2 weeks. Did they finally submit the items that were requested?
Oh, okay. They're supposed to be by June 30th?
Yes, yes, they did.
They
the
did.
pre-application. Community services staff and development services staff are looking at that, going on the site, doing some site work. We have a traffic engineer involved in the process now, so the basic paperwork was turned in, yes.
Okay, did that paperwork include anything that, I guess, could be considered a financial statement?
No. Not that I remember. It was just a site plan, from what I remember seeing.
Okay.
I may be mistaken. I can definitely look at it on Monday, but from what I remember, no. It was just
Not-
the site plan. Yeah.
I would like to
Yeah.
find that out, because otherwise there is a lot of activity going on with very little that really can be done. People saying money makes the world go round, and a lot better than whatever in second place, and et cetera. A quick question on the hummingbird, who's now a skater. No, just kidding.
Yes.
I think it's a very creative, very neat
Yeah.
program. And again, something when you look at the skate park programming that has been instituted in this city skate park, it is head and shoulders above any other one, which gives credence to having it staffed and all the things that in the beginning were questions. How many kids are involved in this preschool program?
Well, we only take 10 kids for each
Session.
session because of their age. Their age
attention
group,
needed
and it's 2 instructors. So it's 10 per each session, and this summer we'll probably do 3 or 4 sessions of that particular program. And it's full, so which is great.
Oh, yeah, no,
Yeah.
I think it would be something that, hopefully you would look at, I think maybe even during the school year when the kids...
Oh, it does, yeah, we do run it, we will run it during the school year,
Yeah, because
definitely.
those kids aren't tied
Oh,
to
yeah.
school, and the
Right,
skate park's
right.
pretty empty then anyway.
Exactly. And
Because
it
of
is popular during that time, too. It's nice in the mornings. That's run in the mornings during
Yeah.
the school week, school year as well, but nice and quiet. It's a good time for the moms to be out there with their preschoolers. They have their own little moms group going at the same time.
Yeah.
We've also incorporated life-size versions of the Nectar with the skateboard. So if you look in the picture that we're show here, that is a life-size Nectar cutout that
Very cool.
that we use as part of the programming for that particular class.
Yeah, no, I think it's kudos to those who came up with how you can take all these different elements that do normally different things and put them
Right.
into something totally new and different.
And they get stickers for the map, but they also get stickers for their helmet. So, which is another kind of cool aspect that we...
It's almost
we-
like pre-scouting where you
Exactly.
get merit badges.
Right,
and it's
right.
great. I mean, it's great. The senior, what do you call it, welcome summer.
Yeah.
Considering we are in California where we don't have seasonality like some other places do, again, I think another neat idea, something that maybe we can do to welcome fall, welcome winter. I'm just throwing...
We do try to incorporate going to the sports park as often as we can with the seniors. It's a really good location for them to have an off-site excursion, or I call them field trip.
Is this like
Yeah.
also during the earlier part of the day when...
Yeah, yes, it was, well, they took them over there. It's a mini excursion, so they usually leave here about 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
And then they get back here around 1:30 or 2.
Okay, yeah.
So the barbecue was done around that time, and they had a very early lunch. I think it was like 10:45 when they ate, 10:45 or 11. But
It
yeah,
works.
it was cooler, definitely. And then you did see that they did balloon toss, so there was probably some water play going on as well.
Is there, do you think, a way, and I know it's the first time and everything, but again, it's something a little bit out of the box and very, very neat to get more enthused about coming and participating? I know during the week...
Well, this was done with our smaller bus. So basically what happened is a small bus came here and shuttled 2 groups over because we can only take 14 at a time.
Right.
So we possibly could do more or have the seniors come there
By
with the
themselves.
bigger bus or by themselves. The only problem and concern we have with that is that we want to make sure that, number one, they know where to go. Number two, if you get a large group there, we have to take staff that's here over there, and then we would have to close here. But we're so looking forward to the new center where we will be able to do these things
Right.
there on site.
Yeah.
Yeah, at any given time.
A little bit of a compromise.
Exactly.
to get
Right. Exactly.
More people involved. And
Yeah.
maybe we could, I don't know, offer something a little bit more than the $10 target, or there's ways to skin that cat. But again, something different, something new.
Right.
On and on. And then the last number comment that I noticed with the skate park, where did it go? In June?
We are transitioning to our new software, from our new to the new software.
Yeah, but I'm sorry, even the transitioning or whatever, that's a phenomenal number to be back.
Oh, you're talking about June, not May.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
May, I understood.
Yeah, June, you'll see the numbers, other than maybe this month when it's so hot. Now, mind you, when it's 100 degrees, 90 degrees, 100 degrees, just, on the normal walking around, at the skate park, it's much hotter. It's at least 10 to 15 degrees hotter out on that. So the numbers kind of go down, except for at night. It gets pretty busy.
Back to June. In
Yeah.
July, we'll say it was Afghanistan.
Yeah.
And people
Exactly.
walk around in the heat there, too. And
Right.
live. But I was just commenting, this is, again, a phenomenal number for June.
Yeah.
Back over the 4,000 mark.
Well, we're still, in fact, Stuart and I were talking about that today. We're still getting those people from out of state. We're still getting the people from out of the United States.
Yeah.
Japan, Europe, Russia. We're
No, it's got a reputation.
Yeah.
And it's,
So, we're going to our 15th year now. This coming December will be 15 years this park's been open, and we're still having this much success, which is phenomenal. Yeah.
No, it's, again, credit to the facility, the people that work it, and things that are done. Very, very good. And the other is the last thing is kind of a request here on something like the emeritus classes and some of these other type activities. Would it be possible to ask for let's say a 6-month report of taking the numbers that you always are doing, like 2 months, and giving us kind of a view of a longer period?
Yeah, we could do that. We would just have to think, when you're in reference to 6 months, would you be talking about, let's say, June back to December?
January to the end of June.
Yeah.
July through December. Just kind of something that would give a little bit of if you take them and then make your own little spreadsheet, you could do it, but I'm just kind of hoping that it wouldn't be too hard to just take the numbers and throw them into a...
No, it's very
actually
very simple. Would you like that twice a year? How often would you want? Do you want that every time we come forward to you, or how would you like that presented?
Well, if you can do a cumulative one, that would be even better, but if not, at least twice a year.
Okay.
But maybe we could see one, maybe starting next time, through June, and then at the end of the year, we could see one from July through.
Well, I'm thinking about this. We could do it, fiscal year is July
Is that
to
easier?
June.
Yeah,
So we could do July through December, that's about halfway through, and then
that's
January through July.
Yeah.
So in December, we would do back through July. It would be retrospect look. And then in July, we would do back through January.
Yeah. Kind of give a little bit more of a global overview of how these programs are going.
Right.
And if they're, in some cases, maybe worth looking to change something or replace them.
Right. Okay.
It's better,
Let me come up with an
a
idea
little bit better management.
of how to do this, and then we'll
Yeah. Thank
maybe
you.
we'll pass it around.
Okay.
I'll send it out to you all.
Sure.
No, just, it's 6-month look.
Okay.
So you would look at January, February, March, April, May, and then the next one would be,
They don't want 2016 January?
no, just for that fiscal year.
Okay.
Am I correct? Just through the fiscal year, okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Very very good. Thank you. Loretta?
So this is just comments on the rec report, correct? Or is this our regular comment?
Comments? Well,
Rec report.
Rec report.
Okay. Excellent job, as always.
Oh, thank you.
And I'll cover my stuff in my comments.
Oh,
And they're
okay.
always-
All right.
They're always.
Do you have any on the rec report? Okay, very good. So if we're finished with the reporting portion, then we can move direct into commission comments. I'm going to start to my left. Sorry, Jim, we'll get to you. Don't worry. So,
So a few comments. On the badminton thing, I wasn't here, but I did email Scott my commentary
Yeah.
on that, and I did concur with the decision, just, I think because of the permanent lines, and, you know, I did concur with that, too. Love the increased use on the social media, and one of the things I did notice was the survey now, and it's out on, I think it's on Instagram, Facebook, anything, Twitter, whatever platform I'm on. I've seen it like several times, and I really like that, and I'm just anxious to see the results that you guys get on what the survey I'm referring to is the 2040, where you want to see like that's
Oh,
something you
it's
guys-
for that's through a different department, but we can
Okay.
definitely pass that along.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I do like just seeing the activities and the things being promoted, because then I don't have to kind of fumble through and find pieces of paper, and definitely think you guys are doing a phenomenal job managing that now. And I was gone till like probably about a week ago, so I'm looking forward to some of the concerts when I can squeeze those in the park and the farmers market and that kind of thing. Good. So that's
very good.
Thank you. Okay, so I got to help with the luncheon at the senior center last Thursday, not today, and I was talking to staff, and I guess we're having a little problem with getting their volunteer registration process done with fingerprinting. Somehow it's being held up somewhere.
I'm working with HR on that.
Oh, good. Just wanted to make sure that's working. I went. I attended the farmers market. I thought that was great. I had a wonderful time visiting with all the vendors. Let's see. The parade I thoroughly enjoyed. Loved working that. I thought it was a good parade, really. Yeah. Let's see. No, because I'm a judge, so I have to watch it all. I can't be in it. Anyway, are we doing an excursion to the Sawdust Festival for the seniors? Oh, we are.
I think it's a mini excursion.
Mini excursion. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Because I went and I thought, oh, seniors.
Yeah, they try to go not every year, but at least every other year they try to go.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, anyway, I went and that's what I thought of about that. So when I was I also attended the 2040 this last meeting, and there was a gentleman that brought up the fact that in our sports park we only have one bike rack.
There's got to be.
Yeah. We can check on that.
Yeah. So if we need to put an extra one in there in the budget, that would be a good idea, because that was a comment. And then Leah Basil mentioned at the city council meeting having, I can't remember, was it Kids Factory?
Kids Factory. We've talked about that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
You're on it. I love that you're on that. Okay. And then also, Sandy mentioned this, the Second Harvest Market. I really would like to encourage us to do that. I mean, that is such a phenomenal program. Oh, well, here. Yeah, it's done through Second Harvest Food Bank. Oh, here.
It's basically a mobile food
It's
bank.
a mobile food bank for the seniors, And I just think it's a wonderful thing, because I know some of the seniors approached me about it, saying, hey, I could use this.
I don't know if what we had talked about is, because that had come forward to us as well, I looked at that, is I'm not sure if at this facility we could have that.
I understand that.
Because of the parking lot scenario. But when we move,
I
definitely open for it. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. And then I know Mission Viejo has got on board with this, and I was looking that up, and I guess they have a client intake form. So I guess they qualify.
You have to qualify.
Oh, you have
Correct.
to qualify people. Oh,
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if I have a chance, they do theirs on Friday mornings. I might pop by tomorrow and just kind of get a feel of how they
and
do it.
the truck or van they have is amazing. It kind of reminds me of. Did you ever have the donut guy who came down your street, or pastry person, and they had that part that popped up open, and then there was their case of all their different donuts they have. It kind of reminds me of that, but it's better for you, obviously, because it's fruit and vegetables.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's
and I
very-
guess they also have
yeah.
meat, too.
Yeah.
That's what somebody said. Yeah. So anyway, definitely when we have the new facility,
Yes.
make sure we have a spot for them to get in there with that big semi-truck. That would be good. Okay. Yeah. So concerts. I have been a busy woman. Besides our concerts, I love going to them. That Reflex group was really good, by the way. I mean, all of them were good. Well, I just can't even say enough about it. I went and I saw the 80s All-Star, which I would recommend. I even went all the way up to Yucaipa because my friend lives out there. We saw The Answer, which is a classic rock group. They are so good because they play everything. They're not just, they just do it all. And then I went again and I saw the Go-Go's, and that female group was just phenomenal. They were so good. And then I've also attended some of the Tustin concerts. And this is an idea for a senior trip. I went to Irvine. They have the Greek Festival at St. Paul's Orthodox Church. And this, they had the priest there give an explanation of all the artwork in that facility. And it was phenomenal.
Oh, that's very good.
And because he's the one that helped pick it for that,
Yeah.
for the church and stuff, and he has the whole background and he explains it. It was like an art history lesson, and they're all mosaics. It is gorgeous. So something to, I think seniors might like that trip, because I know.
Yeah.
I thoroughly enjoyed it.
It's in Irvine.
Yeah, it's in Irvine. Yeah, yeah. So it's not too far. You could do like a mini busy trip there. Okay. I just want to let you know the family camp out I thought was a huge success. I know I talked to Laura already about it, but everybody was so happy. Kevin did a phenomenal job, and I was so happy I got to help out.
Yeah.
You know, the little girls were so cute. They were squealing about the water balloon contest or water balloon toss. There you go. So I just kudos on that. And I attended the 2040 plan meeting, so that was very interesting. I'm glad I did that. I actually sat with the shopping market guys, you know, that manage those, and then it's like a whole different perspective. And as a resident, you know, and a commissioner, I see it from this point, and they're way over here looking at it, totally different. So it was really good that I sat at that table. So anyway, so that was really good. When I went to the Laguna Niguel concert, they now have is it a T-shirt cannon? Is that what they call that?
Yeah.
And so the mayor, basically, it was their first time using it, so she's out there at the intermission flinging out those T-shirts with that cannon. There was a lot. She was having a ball with that thing. I don't know if that's something we want to do. Do you think Mayor Gardner would want to toss out T-shirts with a cannon?
No.
I don't know.
Yes, Cowboys would do it. But anyway, it's just something to think about, because it's really a fun event. And look at how many people we have at our concerts. We need to launch it really far if we have that thing. So just something
Well,
to
they
think
do it at the Angels games, too. But
Oh, yeah.
They don't get them in the upper deck. It's just,
Oh, well, but still, it was a lot of fun.
in the cheap seats, you don't get them. You got to sit up front, so.
Yeah, well, there you go. And then also, I know, and I'm not sure which part, or which, Lake Forest Little League went really far with the state championship. But I can't tell you exactly which group. So I don't know if we want to honor them.
Yeah, I'll check.
Are they part of District 55?
I don't know what district they are, but I'll double check because I know their older group went pretty far and then they lost. They didn't. I think they lost in the quarterfinals, but I'll double check.
Well, my neighbor is part of that, so I can ask him too.
Oh, okay.
Okay. But I just thought it'd be nice to honor them because, I mean, to go to the state championship, I think that was pretty impressive. So that's something to think about. Anyway, so that is it. Thank you. And, staff, thanks again. Everybody does such a phenomenal job, and they're so wonderful to work with. Anyway, there you go. Enough.
Okay, just a couple of, again, another 30 days of some really, I thought, overall great events. The concert on the 24th last month, it was really fun. It was just a whole kind of different atmosphere, environment, and where we kind of were
We had good
stationed.
fun.
Well, yeah, I mean, come up there and take the chair, put it down. It was about as far as I'm from Victor as to where the families of, and I couldn't quite figure if it was 2 or 3 of the Reflex players were.
Oh, yeah.
And you could really tell parental pride. I guess that's what I can call it. And really, really into it. And you could also, before they went on stage and afterwards, see the interaction between the musicians and their parents. It was very, very positive. So it was very, very nice. It was a great event. The 4th, the parade, I think was spectacular. I think it was probably one of the better ones of maybe within the last 5 years. And I think some great participation as a sidelight. We had more representation people-wise by our adopted Marine unit than in any other year to date, to include more dogs and things like that. And I found out later there was, and I am very appreciative of a story behind it. Typically they send 3 canines and their handlers, and they're up in the front part. And this time there were 5 canines and handlers, and 2 of them were in more of a dress uniform, the ones at the back. And one of them is the gentleman who's kennel master for the unit at Pendleton. And I kind of asked him, I said, I knew you were sending more canines, but I didn't know if you'd be coming or whatever. And he said, well, we just kind of talked about it, and we wanted to be next to the committee float as well, which I thought was kind of an honor. And then, of course, the other gentleman with him, he needed his sleeves enlarged because of the size of his biceps. So, I've never seen linen stretch that far without tearing. But again, a great group, and I don't think I need to tell anybody in this room how I feel about what we do with those Marines. So, also included was a commanding officer who took command on the 29th of June, and on Tuesday, the next Tuesday, he and his family were up here for the parade. And very, very neat guy, very interested in growing the relationship between the unit and the city. So, again, very positive. And then we went down for their change of command, and then on the 10th, after the 4th, once we started breathing again, we did their big event for the first half of the year, which usually is end of June, but this was, because of him taking command, was the 10th of July, their big family day at the recreation area on the beach at Del Mar. Had about 350 Marines, family members, and things like that. It was cool. Taking a breath coming home from that, I, on the 11th, had the opportunity to attend the ongoing bi-monthly senior board meeting, and I'm glad both of you stayed till this late, because I really want to, and I've had the luxury and the ability to go to just about all of their meetings, and they're getting better. not that they ever were not good, but from the amount of creativity, the amount of, call it, thought process related to getting and being creative, I think it's a pleasure because these are people who totally understand that age bracket, what is kind of good, and they have experience outside the city, and I think, again, they will help steer us as a city into a center. Notice I have eliminated a certain word that will not be used. They will move us into the clubhouse next year in a very, very fine fashion. And I just want to say thank you for what you and your three that aren't here with you today do on a regular basis. Just related to that, if we can get on this stock memo, just a couple words changed, that the commission hasn't really requested a quarterly report, but they meet bi-monthly, every 2 months, and our desire was to receive, as we did tonight, a report on their activities after that. So that it's really every 2 months. Appreciate that. That night also, Loretta was there, did the general plan meeting, and I've been to all three of them. It's interesting, the breadth of latitude that the consultant company is allowing there to be put on the table, because I finally thought I would be told no was something that I brought up. The last general plan meeting focused on space, land, use of land, land use, land spaces, et cetera, and I asked the facilitator that was at our table, I said, how far can we go with this? And she said, well, what are you suggesting? I said, okay, I'll be very honest with you. To point out a piece of town, and the recommendation would be to demolish it and start over with something. And the interesting part is the others at our table, three of them, when she said, yes, you can do that, all pointed to the part of the city that I had in mind, which is right by El Toro and the freeway, that shopping center that you can't ever get into, that has been dead for 30 years, and on and on. And I really am personally very impressed with the consultant firm that has been brought on compared to maybe some others. They really seem to have a good background and a lot of experience, and I think hopefully we'll come up with something good. Something that we brought up a while back, the commission, and it's documented in the rec report, interesting place, the request that we all were in consensus of to change our name to a Community Services Commission. On Tuesday, I got up and did my 3 minutes worth in front of the council to that effect, and since it was non-agendized, their council comments, one of the council members brought forth support for it, and they all agreed to get it agendized so it can happen. And having talked to every one of them individually, not a one of them was opposed to it, from a standpoint that would be, a more fitting name for this body, considering what we're involved with today and what we do. And with that, again, I want to say thank you to staff for everything you do, and again, a big thank you, and hopefully both of you can convey it to some of the, I call them newer coordinators that have come on and taken and shouldered a huge burden of programs, and the level of enthusiasm and the level of work they're willing to put in, and the results that they generate, and regardless of what, they're always smiling. I don't think I've ever seen Kevin Fernandez with a frown on his face or anything close to it, and there's several others like it. So I think maybe just from, on behalf of all of us, could convey some thanks to them for what they do. They deserve it. And, of course, you guys, too, because you're the leaders that they follow.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. A couple quick questions. One, I'm interested to know how the new registration software is working out as it compares to the old system.
It's working. It's actually works very well. We have had a very, very smooth transition. Right now, if you're in comparison to another department that's trying to transition software as well, I would say 100% difference in how their transition is going versus our transition. We had a few little glitches initially with the way we set up our online reservation for picnic shelters. That's all been taken care of now. No issues with that whatsoever. Very, very, very smooth transition, mainly because the staff has been so great to be risk takers and say, hey, we're gonna try something new, and all been very open-minded about it. But it's been, I think, gone very well.
Well,
Yeah.
it's good to hear because I know
Yeah.
I know there's always challenges when you're establishing a new system, and quite frankly, you just don't know what to expect. So I'm glad to hear that it's working and everyone's satisfied.
And we're in the process of starting to utilize other pieces of it that we haven't been able to quite yet because of the main emphasis being on registration. So they have a component that will enable us to text as many people as put their information to be allowed to get text. We have done email blasts in the past, but the texting to me is a very important piece of this. So if a class for whatever reason gets canceled, we can text somebody pretty quickly to tell them the class has been canceled and this is why. Whereas before it was mainly phone calls down the list. So there's lots of things like that. There are some marketing pieces that I'm going to be working on, particularly that are involving the website. That we'll be moving forward with. In the next probably 6 months, you'll see some changes on there. But so far, so good. Very happy with it. Staff seems to be very happy with it. It has a lot more. It's a lot more user friendly from the staff side. I think it's a lot easier for people to use from the end user side.
Are you seeing more and more people going online versus walk-ins? And
We've always seen that. We've always had a good amount of people that have gone online versus walking in. What we're looking to do now is work with our senior population to make them feel even more comfortable with this. I'd say in about 5 years, I think that the majority of seniors will have gone through. They used computers when they were younger. Now they're going to continue to use them. So this program is in that context is very user friendly. You can register on your phone. You can register on an iPad. We're looking to use components of it where we'll have an iPad at an event, and you can register at the event itself, which is really good in the thought process of not having people can use their credit cards at events. Basically, not having a lot of cash at events, which will be nice for staff as well. So very happy with it so far.
So the residents obviously have a sign-in period ahead of non-residents.
Yes, which we've always had that.
And you always have
Yeah.
had that. Are you seeing a lot of the residents taking advantage of that during this period?
Definitely, yeah. Especially for our more popular programs. All of our camps, summer camps at the sports park in particular, sold out within the first 15 minutes.
That's what I understand. That's
Yeah.
phenomenal. So the next point is we have a joint activity going on at Heritage Hill, the Halloween event, which is always a premier event every year, coming up, October, whenever, something. I forget the date. Okay, well. But is that, whose area of responsibility? Is that yours? I know how much work goes into it, and hats off to the staff and the people that spend an inordinate amount of time getting ready for that event, because there's a lot of work.
Yeah.
You get all those events, but the end result is truly magnificent. The quality of the execution is there, so I'm looking forward to it. Do you even remember the date on that? Is that mid-October? I can't remember.
It's usually the first weekend and then the second weekend.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, it's
first and
back-to-back.
second.
Yeah.
And you're going to do back-to-back?
It's back to back, yeah. So Autumn Harvest Festival is first, and then the Haunt.
And
will
the
be
Harvest Festival's coming up, too.
that's usually the first Saturday, and then Haunt is the following Friday and Saturday.
There you go.
Yep.
Okay, so that's a busy time. Other than that, I have nothing else to comment on. I deem the meeting adjourned.